let's talk about the strategy formation. Really, we want to make certain that we're part of the strategic planning, but let's sit down and take it to the next step about the strategy. Here are the 5 major components of strategy formulation. Mission. Your mission is the overall general statement of what the organization is about. And from that mission, your executive team should be deriving the goals to accomplish as you go out there. When you talk about goals, you're talking about 3 different types of goals. It's kind of past the scope of an HR class, but that being said, really, we talk about strategic goals. You're talking about goals that are focused 3 years and out. Anywhere time you hear the word strategic, you're talking long-term goals or 3 years and out. And then you have tactical goals, which are 1 to 3 years, and then operational goals, which are a year or less. But overall, there's goals. There's an external analysis as you go through. We're really talking about a SWOT analysis, and we'll get into that shortly. But the external analyst, you want to sit down and look around what is happening outside the organization. What kind of opportunities are sitting right over here, but also what kind of a threat are you looking at in years to come? So you're looking on the opportunities and the threats to the organization as you go through. And then you want to sit down and have an analysis of the internal part of the organization, or the strengths that you have as an organization, maybe strengths comparable to another organization, or maybe even stronger strengths, but also the weaknesses. You need to have an honest assessment about that. Too often we're blind to our own weaknesses. And then you want to sit down and look at the aspect of a strategic goal or choice as you go through. The 5 things: mission drives goals. You look on the external and internal analysis, and then you have a choice as you go through. So here's kind of a graphic representation of strategy formulation as you go through. Now we're looking at a thing that we call a SWOT analysis. If you haven't heard this term before, you need to make it part of your business vocabulary. This is slung about in every single organization. I was sitting in some meeting and everything else, and I was kind of almost half falling asleep and everything else. And it was a religious institution as you go through, and it was a board meeting, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, somebody talked about a SWOT analysis. Okay, it's in that world over there. It's in the world of retail. It's in the world of online. Every single organization you have what's called a SWOT analysis, SWOT. Strengths and weaknesses. That comes from an internal assessment or analysis of what the organization has with the strengths and the weaknesses. And then you do an external analysis of opportunities and threats. Put this in your notes. It tends to always be on my test because this is the jargon of the world of business. You need to know what it is. Here's the SWOT analysis of Google. Their strengths: expanding liquidity, operational efficiency, a broad range of services portfolio. They have a massive amount. They almost have a corner of the market. Oh, wait a minute. They're being sued by the government, multiple governments, over having antitrust violations. Yes, we're talking about a broad range of services. Their weaknesses are they have issues with the Chinese government, and I'll let you go back and explore that on your own. It's been ongoing for a number of years. Dependence on advertising segment and losses at YouTube. They have they're almost hemorrhaging in that field as you go through. The opportunities: there's a growing demand for online video. There's growth in internet advertising. Actually, internet advertising surpassed all print advertising in 2019. And there's inorganic growth out there as you go through. You also have the threats of a weak economic outlook, although to be straight with that, I'm not certain that really proved true with the pandemic. Instead of a weak economic outlook, when the rest of the economy is going into the tank, Google thrived in the process because more people were going online. Invalid clicks. If you are involved, by the way, in any kind of business as you go through, I have to tell you, you start getting somebody that's bored in the middle of the night, or they had too much to drink or smoke or whatever in the process, and you're paying $10 for every click. You can sit down there and run your budget up quite a bit for advertising for a bunch of people that really have no intention of following through. I've seen it, I've experienced as you go through. And then also threats about Microsoft and the Yahoo deal as you go through. So you have a whole series of things to look at as a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats in any type of situation as you go through. SWOT analysis is a key part of every organization and really should be done on a regular basis. It can be done even at a department level to see if your department is measuring up to other departments of comparison in other organizations as you go through. Strategy information: an organization with a variety of structural forms and so on. I'll let you read that yourself, but here are the 5 variables. You have the structure itself. You have the different tasks of HR: the task design, the selection, training, and development of people. In other words, once you hire them in, and then you have a reward system to make certain that you keep them as you go through. And then you have a task of information and information systems as you go through. 5 different variables as you go through. Now, as you go through, look on the strategy implementation, look on the different aspects over here. I'm not going to be holding you accountable. I just want you to see the different types of interactions that occur out there. Whenever you sit down and talk about one area, let's say organizational structure, you have to pay attention as to its impact on the type of information that it provides, but also receives, the task designs, the reward system. Everything is integrated with each other as you go through. You can see the 5 different variables in the middle, surrounded by the measurement of performance and the input of the market strategy as you go through. The culture itself, we talk about a culture. You want to sit down and look at the values, beliefs, assumptions, and symbols. Now, that being said, what values do you have as a corporation? We want to make money. Well, is that all? Does your organization have a concern about environmental regulation? What about the governance system do you have? Do you want to have good community feedback as you go through? What are the beliefs? Do you have a belief system that drives your products, whether it be a physical product or a service as you go through? What about the dissatisfied customer? What about the satisfied customer? Do you have a constant thing of feedback with them as you go through? What assumptions are you making of the audience as you're out there? Are you looking at your marketing to all demographic areas? What kind of symbols do you have in the organization? We talk about symbols. You'll see a lot of different aspects that symbols come to represent different things inside the organization as well as outside the organization. Also, on the culture, what defines the relevant stakeholders? By stakeholders, we're talking about the people that have a vested interest in the company. Those are certainly all of your employees. They're certainly all of your customers. As well as the suppliers that you pay money to receive their goods or services, as well as the competitors out there and how you interact with them. Also, your culture is both strategy, and you got to make certain that your culture is aligned with both the strategy and the overall value that you're going to provide to your customers in the process. Talent, individuals have a disproportionate impact on the firm. Okay, you want to sit down and really focus and try to get the superstars, if you can possibly do that, and make certain they fit in, but also the key groups of employees in the process as you go through. As you go through the supply chain, design, supply, manufacturing, distribution, service, there's a process in each one of them, but you'll see foundational to each one of them is the key talent that makes that happen as you go through. You may pull off a rainmaker type character that brings in all kinds of rain and helps your company grow, and one person can actually feed multiple people as they go through if you land the right person and if they're a good fit inside the organization. So you really have a major role in human resources in making certain that each one of the major areas of your organization can be successful by hiring the right talent as you go through. And that talent comes through people, and a lot of it comes through your process inside of human resources. And here's your process. Do a good job analysis and design to create a good job description as you go through. Recruitment, in other words, gather a pool of people as you go through. I would write that down if I were you. We're going to have an entire chapter on recruitment. Recruitment is not selection. Recruitment is gathering a pool of talent as you go through. And then you have a selection where you take that pool of recruitment, you choose the right one as you go through. And then when you hire that person, your task doesn't stop there as you go through. You have to conduct an orientation. In my opinion, we'll talk more about training later on. In my opinion, orientation is by far the #1 most neglected type of training. #2, one of the most important parts of training. If you have a good orientation system, you're going to launch the new employee and you're going to reduce your overall turnover. Nowadays, with 38 million people quitting their jobs in the year 2021, that's a big deal. You must pay attention because every time somebody quits your organization, it'll take you weeks or months to fill that position, and it also costs you money in the training process to keep them. So if you have a good training and development program, the probability of your turnover rate being reduced is much better as you go through. Also, performance management systems or assessments or evaluations, whatever term you want to use in the process, reward systems as you go through, compensation systems, in other words, and making certain you have appropriate rewards for those that are doing a superb job, and also labor relations as you go through. here's a graphic picture of strategic planning and the overall impact as HR goes through and implements the strategic planning as you go through in the process. So mission to goals, know exactly about SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and also an internal scan for strengths and weaknesses and an external scan for opportunities and threats. Take care.